Janna Nitai Gaura Chandra Parama Karuna Pahudui Janna Nitai Gaura Chandra Pahudui Janna Nitai Gaura Shabhavadada Shadashiromani Kebala Ananda Kanda Shabhavadada Shabhavadada Shadashiromani Kebala Ananda Kanda Shadashiramani Kebala Ananda Kanda Bhaja Bhaja Bhai Chaitanya Nitai Shudrida Vishasha Kori Chaitanya Nitai Shudrida Can't read it. Bhaja Bhaja Bhai Chaitanya Nitai Shudrida Vishasha Kori Vishaya Chariya Shera Shemachiya Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari Vishaya Chariya Vishaya Chariya Shera Shemachiya Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari Padama Karuna Pohudui Janna Nitai Gaura Chandra Nitai Gaura Chandra Dekho Ori Bhai Bhuvane Nai Emona Doyala Data Bhuvane Nai Emona Dekho Ore Bhai Bhuvane Nai Emona Doyala Data Poshu Paki Jude, Poshana Bedare, Shunichara Gunagata. Poshu Paki Jude, Poshu Paki Jude, Poshana Bedare, Shunichara Gunagata. Padama Karuna Pohudui Janna Nitai Gaura Chandra Shangsharam সংসার মজিরে রহিরে পড়ি সে পারে নাহিল আশা সংসার মাজিয়া রহিরে পড়িয়া সে পারে নাহিল আশা अपन करम भुंजय समह कहे लोचन दास अपन करम भुंजय समह कहे लोचन दास Janadasa Padama Koduna Pohudu Ijana Nitai Gaura Chandra Nitai Gaura Chandra Padama Koduna Pohudu Ijana Nitai Gaura Chandra Nitai Gaura Chandra Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Mukham Karadi Vachalam Bhangam Langayate Girim Chat Kripatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Om Jnana Timananda Shagyana Jana Shalakaya Chokshushu Nimelitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shamati Bhakti Vedanta Shami Iti Namane Srivase Korali Tui Bhavani Pujan Koti Janma Hobe Tor Raurava Patan Srivase Korali Tui Bhavani Pujan Koti Janma Have To Raurava Patan Srivase Koraile Tui Bhavani Pujan Koti Janma Have To Raurava Patan Matri Mandali. Srivase unto Srivas Thakur. Koraili, you have caused to do. Tui, you. Bhavani Pujan, worshipping the goddess Bhavani. Koti Janma, for 10 million births. Hobe, there will be. Tor, your. Road away in hell, patan, fall down. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. You have made Srivas Thakur appear to have been worshipping the goddess Bhavani. Simply for this offense, you will have to fall down into hellish life for 10 million births. Report. There are many tantric followers who, wishing to eat meat and drink wine, practice the black art of worshipping the goddess Bhavani in a crematorium. Such fools also consider this Bhavani Puja to be as good as worship of Lord Krishna in devotional service. But such abominable tantric activities performed by the so-called swamis and yogis are herein condemned by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He declares that such Bhavani Puja for drinking wine and eating meat quickly plunges one into hellish life. The method of worship itself is already hellish, and its results must also be hellish and nothing more. Many rascals say that whatever way one accepts, one will ultimately reach Brahman. Yet, we can see from this verse how such persons reach Brahman. Brahman spreads everywhere, but appreciation of Brahman is different. In different objects leads to different results. In Bhagavad Gita 4:11, the Lord says, Jai jata mam pravadyante tangshtataiva bhajami aham. I reward everyone according to his surrender unto me. Mayavadis certainly realize Brahman in certain aspects. But realization of Brahman in the aspect of wine, women and meat is not the same realization of Brahman that the devotees achieve by chanting, dancing and eating prasadam. Mayavadi philosophers, being educated in paltry knowledge, think that all sorts of Brahman realization, one and the same, and do not consider varieties, or think all sorts of Brahman realization one and the same, do not consider varieties. But although Krishna is everywhere, by his inconceivable potency, he is simultaneously not everywhere. Thus the Brahman realization of the tantric cult is not the same Brahman realization as that of the pure devotee. Unless one reaches the highest point of Brahman realization, Krishna consciousness, he is punishable. All people except Krishna conscious devotees, all people except Krishna conscious devotees are, to some proportion, pashandis or demons. Thus they are punishable by the Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead, as stated below. Srila Prabhupada Ki. You've been hearing the story of how Gopal Chapal was envious of the position that the community of Navadip gave to Srivas Thakur, the respect he was shown, and therefore he tried to minimize that by Bhavani Puja. All of the ingredients, the vermilion flower, the wine, etc. He arranged in the front of the door of Srivas Thakur. You were hearing that over the last few weeks. And Mahaprabhu is here. He's actually, we'll come to that. But Prabhupada's commenting here how this is quite degraded, and therefore the attempt to publicly dishonor Srivas Thakur was by associating the items of Bhavani Puja with him. So we can see that even at this time, this was considered to be a degraded type of behavior, worshipping Bhavani in this way. Now there was one incident which shows, as we were singing, that Dekho Bhai, look brothers, Tri Bhuvane Nai, in the three worlds, there is no one else, Emon Dhoyala, as merciful as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as these two brothers, Parama Karuna, Pahu Duijon, these two brothers, Pahu Duijon, Parama Karuna. Shab Avatar Sharashiromani, of all the incarnations, they are the crash jewels, Kevala Ananda Kanda, because their Kanda, their path, is simply blissful. It's simply, and actually, when we hear these pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we are filled with devotional sentiment, and we are astonished. Sri Gauda Modurya Lila Char Karne Probeshila Nirmol Bhelo Otar. Narottam Das Thakur sings that Sri Gauda Modurya Lila, these sweet pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jar Karne Probeshila, for those whose ears these sweet pastimes enter into, Hridoyar Nirmol Bhelo Tar, your heart becomes completely purified. So Mahaprabhu's method of spreading Krishna consciousness is very sweet. Actually, Mahaprabhu, he was performing the lila of a disciple, so he was showing such respect to Advaita Thakur. Because Advaita Thakur was the godbrother of Ishwarapuri, who were both initiated, Ishwarapuri and Advaita Goshai were both initiated by Madhavendra Puri, Prabhupada. So therefore Mahaprabhu was respecting Advaita Thakur like his guru. And this was not very much appreciated by Advaita Thakur. And so he had a scheme, he had a strategy, he had a plan. I will behave in such a way as to be accepted as the servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Advaita Thakur, Mahavishnu. But he considers himself the servant of Shachinandan, the servant of Navadip Chandra. So he began, his plan was to preach from the Yoga Vashishta philosophy, and he was preaching that Gyan is superior to Bhakti in Shantipur, as he was giving his lecture. Would you like to hear those lectures of Advaita Thakur? I'm sure they would be very interesting, fascinating. He's proposing, he's propounding the Gyan, the philosophy of Gyan. So hearing about this, hearing these rumors, Nityananda Prabhu and Sriman Mahaprabhu, they would go, they planned, let us go and see what he is speaking in Shantipur. So that is another story, which perhaps we will have the fortune to hear and describe another day, what happened in Shantipur when Mahaprabhu went there. But on the way to Shantipur, it's interesting that they came across the village of, is that village called? Anyway, in between Kamlapur, in between Shantipur and Navadip, on the bank of the Ganga, they came to one village. And there was one house, ashram, on the side of the Ganga. And Mahaprabhu, Sachinandan, he asked, at this time Mahaprabhu had not taken sannyas, Navadip Chandra. Dijamani, Sachinanda, and he asks Nityananda Prabhu, who is the proprietor of this house? And Nityananda Prabhu says, it is one Dhari Sannyasi, means a householder sannyasi. And Mahaprabhu, in the purport, Sanatana Saraswati Thakur was explaining how this is the phenomena at that time. And also now, West Bengal, householders that wear the saffron cloth for begging for a livelihood. So such sannyasi was there. And Mahaprabhu, he's explaining that, it will be our great fortune if we could see this sannyasi. So the sannyasi, he appears. And then he sees these two beautiful, gorgeous young Brahmin boys. And he says that, Pandit, come and take some rest in my house. You're on a long journey and you must be very tired. You come and take rest. And Nityananda and Mahaprabhu said, no, Goshai, we are very busy. We're on our journey to Shantipur. We don't have time. And he said, and that sannyasi said, you wait. You rest. You're fatigued. You take bath in the Ganga. And then you come to my ashram and then you take some refreshing, some fruits, milk. So Nityananda Prabhu and then Mahaprabhu, they look at each other and they said, well, okay, take bath in the Ganga. Who could refuse such a pleasant invitation? Take bath in the Ganga, refreshed, tilak, sit down, Gayatri, and then take a little fruits, prasad. So they said, okay. So they went and they took bath in the Ganga. And they came back to the house of that sannyasi. And he had arranged a kartal, jackfruit. Now is not quite the season, but when the kartal season, then the village, the whole village becomes imbued with the fragrance of the kartal, the big, sweet, dripping fragrance. Rajapur, Jagannath Mandir, all kartal, jackfruit trees. That Lord Jagannath, he likes the kartal. And it takes many days, a big fruit. And the fragrance, everywhere you can smell. So the jackfruit was there, some sweet. Now we are offering mango, but it's not quite sweet yet. I think I need to come back after 2 weeks. Not quite sweet yet. And this was in the summertime. The mangoes are there, other fruits are there. Tarmuj, watermelon, juicy, so many. They offered, Vrindavan Das Thakur explains, they offered the fruits to Lord Krishna. And some milk. And then they began and they sat down and they were honoring that fruit. And the sannyasi, he was so happy to see these two gorgeous Brahmin boys taking prasadam in his home. And he said, Pandit, he said, Rishiputra, you please, he said to Nityananda Prabhu, he said, you take some Ananda drink. You take a little Ananda drink. And they're taking the fruit, looking at each other. And then he's continuing to request, take a little Ananda juice, Ananda beverage. And then Mahaprabhu, he looks to Nityananda Prabhu and he says, well, what is this Ananda beverage he's referring to? And Nityananda Prabhu said, I think he means wine. You can read the purport, Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He's explaining all of the rituals that the tantric shaktas go through in drinking the wine, different mantras, and to hold the pot of wine in one hand in the clay pot, and different mantras to Bhavani are chanted as they're drinking the wine. It's quite detailed. And in this way they actually reach a stage of intoxicated delirium. This is a type of worship of tamasic worship. And this is their practice. And the Shastras are there, how to practice and worship in this way. Sri Radha Pata, Sharadi, Lalita, Vishaka Gi, Shri Nitai Gaur Chandra Gi, Sitaram Lakman Hanuman Gi. So hearing Nityananda Prabhu explain, or actually before that, I'm jumping ahead, even before that. First of all, when they saw the sannyasi offered benedictions to Mahaprabhu. He offered benedictions. He raised his hand and he said, enjoy in this world beautiful wife, family, wealth and education. Dan, Stri, Poribar, and Vidya. He said, enjoy in this world. Dan, Stri, Poribar, Vidya. Wife, beautiful wife, big family, wealth and education. And Mahaprabhu said, Goshai, what kind of Ashirvad is this? He said, you should bless people. Blessing means to Krishnai Matirash too, become Krishna conscious. And and then the sannyasi became a little upset. He says, oh yes, now I see what I've heard is now I see becoming true, that in this modern age the young students have no respect for the senior members of the society. I have traveled so many places, Kashi, Dwarka, to Rameshwaram, to Haridwar, and I know so many things. And this young bacha, he says, is now telling me what is a good Ashirvad and what is an incorrect Ashirvad. As Mahaprabhu began to preach a little bit, that these things, Dan and Stri and Vidya and Porivar, these are anitta, these are all temporary things. But the Krishna Bhakti is nitta, it is eternal. And then Nityananda Prabhu said, Goshai, he said that sannyasi said, what is wrong with this boy? He must have become mad by chanting some mantra. He's become mad by chanting some mantra. It's true, actually Mahaprabhu, he considered himself mad. And he returned to Ishwarpuri after His Holiness Chaitanya Maharaj was describing to us the initiation at Gaya. After being initiated, Mahaprabhu, he returned to Ishwarpuri. Kiba mantro dilo goshai. Kiba tarbol. What kind of mantra have you given me, Swami? Kiba tarbol. What is its power? Jopati mantra. Korile pago. Chanting this mantra, I've become a madman. So yes, actually, he was correct in saying he must have become mad by the effect of chanting some mantra. Anybody here chanting that mantra? Then understand clearly what is the effect, that you will become mad. You will lose interest in the dan, in the stri, in the poriba, in the material success. You will lose interest in these things. So Nityananda Prabhu, he said, Goshai, you forgive this boy. He's a young boy, a little over-enthusiastic. Little fanatic. He doesn't know very much. He said, I can see your experience and your wisdom, and you please you overlook this behavior of this young Brahmin boy. He's not as experienced. And then Nityananda Prabhu's sweet words satisfied that sannyasi. And so then he said, you take a little ananda beverage. And Mahaprabhu, what is that ananda? And then when Nityananda Prabhu, he said, I think he's referring to wine. At that time, Nitai and Gaur, they looked at each other. And without any further ado, they immediately jumped up. They jumped up and they ran. They ran out of the house and they ran to the Ganga and they dived into the Ganga. In their clothes and everything, laughing and laughing. And then they continued on their journey. They floated in the Ganga down to Shantipur, laughing and laughing, having been refreshed by the sweet fruits and the milk offered. They were very happy. But in the purport, Prabhupada's explaining, actually Vrindavan Das Thakur is also explaining, that just see the Emona Doyala Data. Is there anybody as kind that even the degraded tamasic level so-called renunciate, who is actually an enjoyer, Bishayi, he gets the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that these incarnations, even the meat-eating drunkard, he will, Nitai and Gaur will come into his house and sit down and accept the foodstuffs. Because Vrindavan Das Thakur is explaining that in this incarnation, he wants to freely distribute the love of Godhead. Patra patra bicha nahe shtan ashtan jai jaha pai taha kore prem dan. Patra apatra, whether you're qualified or disqualified. Patra apatra bicha nahe, he doesn't consider. Ashtan ashtan, whether the place is appropriate or inappropriate. Jai jaha pai, whoever he met, whoever he comes across, whoever he finds. Jai jaha pai taha kore prem dan. He's freely distributing the love of Godhead. This is the Parama Karuna. And this sweet pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is showing so much in the Mahaprabhu's pastimes, the sublime nature of bhakti is magnified so much that what was that sannyasi did? He did some bhakti. He did some bhakti, and even though he was degraded, but still he served Mahaprabhu. He served Krishna. You come, you sit in my house, you take rest, you take some fruits. He did some bhakti. And Krishna accepted that. Patram pushpam palam toyam yomi bhakta prayachiti tadaham bhakti upaditam ashnami prayatatmanaham. Actually, if this were not the nature of the Lord, then what hope would we have? What hope would we have? Because we are similarly so degraded and so disqualified. Our only qualification is that by mercy of Guru, we are acting in such a way as to serve Lord Krishna. We are doing some seva for Lord Krishna. And he's kind. He's seeing the Bhava, Janardan Grahai. He's accepting. So Mahaprabhu, he blessed that sannyasi. You imagine, Nitai and Gaur sit down in your home and you satisfy them, you feed them. What is the destination of that sannyasi? Vrindavan Das Thakur explains. Maybe in this life he will not go back home to Godhead because of some material contamination. But next life he will be completely purified and fully experience the love, Krishna Prema, as a result of that genuine service he rendered to Sriman Mahaprabhu. What to speak of those who are every day, who are offering in the home, offering fruits and milk to Nitai Gaur. What to speak of their destination with love, and who are in a purified consciousness, purified life. So what happened to Gopal Chapal? Let's see that he put this puja, Bhavani puja items in the front of Srivas Thakur's door. And then it's describing, what verse number? A few verses back that on the bank of the Ganga, again Gopal Chapal, after being this leprosy attacked him after the offense to Srivas Thakur, and then he'd sit down on the bank of the Ganga because no one would want to be near him. He was living alone underneath a tree. But one day Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wandering along the bank of the Ganga, and Gopal Chapal saw him. My dear nephew, he's older, Gopal Chapal, Kaka. My dear nephew, I'm your maternal uncle. In our village relationship, please see how greatly this attack of leprosy has affected me. As an incarnation of God, you are delivering so many fallen souls. I am also a greatly unhappy fallen soul. Kindly deliver me by your mercy. In this incarnation, you are delivering so many fallen souls. I am also a fallen soul. You kindly deliver me. Mahaprabhu's response. Hearing this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared greatly angry. Angry. And in that angry mood, he spoke some words chastising him. This is a fascinating phenomena. When we see the emotions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that they you could say overwhelmed, they appear, the emotional sentiments overwhelming him. Sometimes Mahaprabhu, like for example, he's so overwhelmed with love of God, he forgets he's God. He's so overwhelmed with love of Krishna, he forgets he's God. As Jabatakar Swami Maharaj also explaining, after he took initiation in Gaya, at that time he wanted to go to Vrindavan, and he left in the middle of the night, headed for Vrindavan, out of overwhelming separation. And Akashvani, the voice in the sky, says, "No, now is not the time to go to Vrindavan." Mahaprabhu, huh? You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Oh. He's so overwhelmed in separation of love for himself, he forgets he's God. So you see that this is a feature of Mahaprabhu's character, that the emotions are very, very much inflamed. And they swing from one emotion to another. Sometimes in the house of Srivas Thakur, he's falling down at the feet of the Vaishnavas and begging their mercy and wanting to do seva. And then the next minute he's taking them and he's putting his feet on their head and he's saying, "Worship me, glorify me, I am he." And it's uncontrollable. It's uncontrollable. It seems to be for no unscheduled. These feelings just overwhelm him. It's like, so, what a person. What an extraordinary person. To meet this person. As we see Rupa Goswami explaining Akhila Rasamrita Murti about Sri Krishna in Vrindavan, that he's the Akhila Ras. All of the rasas are manifest in Vrindavan. And in Mahaprabhu is Radha Krishna Milita, and then also there is separation in the mood of Radharani. What a person. What an extraordinary person. Sriman Mahaprabhu and his character. Sri Chaitanya doya koroho bichar kore pabe chamatkar. You'll be astonished when you consider the character, when you analyze the character of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You will become astonished. So he's angry, and in anger he says, "No, you sinful wretch, ar papi bhakta dveshi, tar na utharaimu koti janma e mate kidaya kaimu." No, you sinful wretch, you're envious of my devotee. I shall not deliver you. Rather, I shall have you bitten by these germs for millions of years. It's so heavy. You will not be delivered. Even though I'm delivering that meat-eating drunkard, because he offered some milk and some fruits, but you tried to degrade, you tried to insult, you tried to hurt my dearest devotee, I will never deliver you. You will rot like this for millions of births. Of course, this lila is emphasizing to us the glorious, the exalted nature of the devotee and how dear the devotee is to the Lord. Also in that example of the sannyasi there with the wine drinking, he says that Mahaprabhu delivered that sannyasi because he offered some fruits and milk. He did some seva, he did some bhakti, he had some bhakti, and Mahaprabhu accepted that bhakti. He said, but the sannyasis in Varanasi, only because of the appeal of Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar did Mahaprabhu deliver the sannyasi. But Mahaprabhu, he went through Varanasi, and the sannyasis were there, and he just carried on. He was neutral. So how dear is the devotee? An example comes to mind. Oh yeah, Vrindavan Das Thakur is saying that the learned sannyasi scholars will never be delivered. But the simple devotee, he's immediately delivered. The example comes to mind when Mahaprabhu was in Prayag. And at that time, Rupa and Anupam had given up their engagement in the government of Nawab Hussain Shah. And they had journeyed to Prayag to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Rupa and Anupam were there, and at that time also the Balabhacharya, who became the Acharya of the Pushtimag Sampradaya, a very exalted, from South India, Brahman Vaishnava, Balabhacharya. And Mahaprabhu was testing him. And as Vallabhacharya was approaching, Rupa and Anupam were nearby, and Mahaprabhu said, he said, Panditji, these two are rejects from the Arya Samaj. They're rejects. They are engaged in the service of the Mleccha Javons. Do not go near them. You better not even let their shadow touch you. You'll be contaminated. Mahaprabhu is testing Vallabhacharya. And Vallabhacharya, he comments, he says that when I hear the holy name incessantly being chanted on the lips of these two exalted souls, how can we consider any element of contamination in their character? And he quoted, Aho bata swapacho to gari yang yajiva grevajde nama tubhyam te pustapas te juhu vushashnu arya brahmanuchu nama grinanti yete, from Kapil Dev's mother, Devahuti. Devahuti, she's praying in the third canto, Devahuti, that, Aho, how glorious! Aho bata swapacho are the dog eaters who yajiv agre nama tubhyam, who are chanting your holy name. And she's explaining specifically that that's not even specifically advanced chanting. She says who have just begun the chanting, jiv agre, they're just a little chanting. Agre means on the tip of the tongue. Anyone who's chanting, even you chant a little, not even serious chanting, regulated chanting, Sankhya Purvaka, but any chanting, Jivagre, even if somehow or other on the tip of your tongue the name touches, Jivagre Nama Tubhyam, your name, Tepast, Tepus, was it Tapas, Tepus Tupas, Te Juhu Vushashnu Arya. Just by that little bit of chanting, they have performed all of the austerities. They have visited all of the holy places of pilgrimage and taken their bath there. Brahmanuchu, they have studied all the Vedic literature, Nama Yete, just by accepting your name. This is more powerful. In other words, that the devotee who's chanting the holy name, he's more purified than the Arya Samaji who has gone to all the holy places, taken his bath, studied all the Vedas, and developed all the good qualities of the Aryan culture, just by a little bit of chanting. So Mahaprabhu, he was very gladdened to hear Vallabhacharya glorify Rupa and Anupama in this way. And then Mahaprabhu, he quoted a verse from the Haribhakti Shuddhodaya, that Name Bhakta Chaturvedi. Our topic here is how dear is a devotee of the Lord and how we have to be so careful in dealing with the devotee. Name Bhakta Chaturvedi. Even if a scholar is conversant in the four Vedas, studied the four Vedas, if he's Name Bhakta, if he's not my devotee, Mad Bhakta Swapacha Priya, he's not as dear to me as my devotee, even though he be born in the family of dog eaters. Tasmai deyam tato grayam. Whatever that person offers, you should accept. And tato grayam, tasmai deyam, whatever you have, you should offer to that person. Sacha puja jatahi aham. He is as worshipable as I am, even just because he's my devotee. We have to be very careful about anything, anytime the devotee offers us something. Tasmai deyam tatograyam. Anytime the devotee offers us something, we should be very careful to accept that with appreciation and respect. And that is the order of the Lord. Tasmai deyam tatograyam. Whatever he offers, we should accept. So be careful not to refuse anything that a devotee offers you. No. That specifically mentioned by the Lord in that instant. You have to accept anything, even you don't require that thing. You accept it. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. You accept it. And then later you can distribute. But don't refuse. Whatever he offers, you should accept. And you should and you should offer everything to that person. Sacha puja jata, he as worshipable as I am. So how dear is a devotee of the Lord. And Mahaprabhu, he appreciated Vallabhacharya, appreciating Rupa and Anupam because of their chanting the holy name. And then they went, and there's a nice story, they took prasadam, Vallabhacharya offered them prasadam. So here we see that simply even though he is Patit Pabon, Hetu, Avatar, he's come to deliver the most fallen, and indiscriminately he's distributing. But there is some discrimination. If you become the Bhakta Dveshi, if you become envious of the devotee, Ar Papi Bhakta Dveshi, Tar na Dharaimu, I will not deliver you. Yeah, the indiscriminate distribution of love of Godhead, except to those who are offensive to the devotees. And this story of Gopal Chapal is illustrating that so graphically. So what happened to Gopal Chapal? Many millions of years suffering. That's many births. Again you take birth as a leper. Again you take birth as a leper. Many millions of years. Koti Janma, it says. Koti Janma. What happened to Gopal Chapal? Well, let's see a few verses later. Maybe I should leave that for the next speaker. After saying this, the Lord left to take his bath in the Ganga, and that sinful man did not give up his life but continued to suffer. Mahaprabhu just left him. So later, as is described, I'll briefly mention, and in a subsequent speakers can elaborate in more detail. Later, after taking sannyas, so this is many years later. Now Mahaprabhu not yet taken sannyas, so perhaps he's 22 years old, something like that. He's preaching in Navadip, and after a couple of years he takes sannyas. He goes to Puri. And then he wanted to go to Vrindavan. Mahaprabhu, after taking sannyas, he left for Vrindavan. Nityananda Prabhu tricked him, come back to Shantipur. And then in Shantipur, Sachi Mata requested, "Oh, Vrindavan, what to do? How will I be able to sustain myself if you're in Vrindavan? Gaudiya Oriya, ek badi dui gor. Gaudiya Oriya. Gaudadesh and Orisha. 2 rooms, 1 house. So you go and you stay in Jagannath Puri. Krishna is there. Bangshi Dari, he is there. So you can attain Gopal Charan, Ashra. You can attain the lotus feet of Govinda in Puri. But I will get news of you, because the Gaudiyas are regularly going every year. And the Gaudiyas regularly visited. Every year they would visit. 200, 250. All of the devotees from Mayapur. There's one wonderful description there as King Pratapurudra is in the palace, and they hear 250 devotees have arrived at Narendra Sarovar from Mayapur, from Navadip. And the king is very interested. Oh, who are those devotees? And Bhattacharya says, oh, you ask Gopinathacharya. He's also from Navadip. He knows them all. He can describe, he can introduce you. So on the roof of the palace, and they're describing, it's an extensive description. Advaita Acharya, Srivas Thakur, Nityananda Prabhu, the king is inquiring, and who is that effulgent personality? And who is that? Mahaprabhu sent the Mahaprasad and the garlands with Damodar, Sarup Damodar. So every year the devotees would visit. So Nisay Mahaprabhu remained in Puri, but still he was always meditating on going to Vrindavan. And he was regularly attempting. But Bhattacharya and Ramananda Roy, they would not permit. And Mahaprabhu would not go. Without your blessings, I will not go. And regularly, and they're saying, no, now is coming the Dol Yatra. You have to stay in Puri. Now is next Ratha Yatra. You have to stay for Ratha Yatra. Oh, now is the rainy season. You cannot travel to Vrindavan. And in this way, Mahaprabhu accepting, waiting. And for 2 years. And then eventually, on the Vijay Dashami day, they gave permission, and he left for Vrindavan. But interesting, Mahaprabhu did not, from Puri, he did not travel in the actual direction of Vrindavan, which would be northwest. Rather, he went north in the direction of Mayapur. And what is the reason? Well, part of the reason was to deliver the offenders like Gopal Chapal. Sriman Mahaprabhu ki! To deliver the offenders like Gopal Chapal. So Mahaprabhu is described again, he came back along the Ganga and he was regularly bathing and fulfilling his desire to associate with Ganga. And also that purpose of that journey was to deliver Rupa and Sanatan in Ramkeli. And he didn't actually go to Vrindavan. After delivering Rupa and Sanatan, he returned to Sanatan Goswami. He went to Kanai Natasala. And Sanatan Goswami is explaining that that's the second time he visited Kanai Natasala, the first time after coming back from Gaya. And then in Kanai Natasala, he's thinking, actually what Sanatan Goswami said is true. We should not go to Vrindavan with a grand procession. By that time, so many thousands, tens of thousands of devotees had joined Mahaprabhu and they were accompanying him to Vrindavan. He said that he realized that this is not the way to enter Vrindavan with grand procession and bugles playing. Rather, I should go alone. So when he did ultimately journey to Vrindavan, he only took the Krishna Das and one or two associates. He went through the Jharkhand. So he returned to Puri that time. But the purpose, different purposes were there, to deliver Rupa and Sanatan, and also to deliver all of the offenders in Mayapur, Navadip. Mahaprabhu had arrived at the house of Vidyavachaspati, the brother of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, in Vidyanagar. And he just said, I'm on my way to Vrindavan, and I will just rest here a few days and take bath in the Ganga. You please give me a secluded place. And Vidyavachaspati there, Vidyanagar, he gave, and Mahaprabhu was staying. But just like the rising sun, you cannot contain its attraction, its potency, its brilliance. Krishna Surya Sama. So news quickly spread in Mayapur that he has come, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, he has come back to Navadip after so many years. Oh, and the devotees in Mayapur, they were lamenting that he was with us, he grew up with us, he was our village, he was Nimai Pandit, he was Navadip Chandra, but we did not actually recognize he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We did not recognize that he was the Kali Yuga Avatar, Pati Pabon. Let us go, let us beg forgiveness. Let us get his mercy. And tens of thousands of people were approaching. It's described that they had to cross from Mayapur, they had to cross the Ganga, and all the boatmen were completely overwhelmed with the peak hour. Not enough boats. The boats were filling out. You know, they're standing, you've seen them there, and they go, no, people jump. People clambering onto the boats. The boats were sinking. People forgot the boats. They were taking the clay hadi, the clay pot, and holding that and just floating across the Ganga. And other people, they would take the banana gach, kola gach. You see, in the flood in Mayapur, it's amazing. Water comes in up to here, and then the next day you see already the village men. They make a raft with the kola, with a banana plant. And they're very expert. They stand on the banana plant and they're cruising up and down the road with the banana plant. They cruise. Very quickly they make it. It floats. The banana tree, it floats. 2-3 sticks you stick together. So they were grabbing the banana tree. There was somehow or other. There was no... the Ganga became full of heads bobbing in the water. And then a big crowd, Mahaprabhu showed himself and then he disappeared. And all of the Mayapur Basis, they were harassing Vidyavachaspati. What sort of a Brahman are you? You're keeping him inside? A genuine, soft-hearted person, he considers the deliverance of others, not just himself. And another fellow said, even when it comes to you buy sweets at the market, you don't just go to your room and eat them all yourself. You distribute. And Vidyavachaspati is saying, he's not here, he left. We don't know where he is. They're saying he's lying, tear his house down. And then somebody whispered, no, Mahaprabhu, he's gone to Kulia. That's Koladip, that's current Navadip city. And he's gone there. And so then the crowd again, they all submerged, they all went to Kulia. And Mahaprabhu gave darshan. At that time, he delivered all of the offenders. at that time. You can visit that place near Navadip station. Is where the offenders are delivered. What's the name of that place? Anyone know that? Yeah. Aparad Bandhan Kulia. Yeah, so you can visit that place. So Devananda Pandit, he came and he was delivered. He had offended Srivas Thakur. He was giving the class, and Srivas Thakur was crying on hearing the shlokas of the Bhagavatam. And even though Devananda Pandit was the Jnani, not a Bhakta, but hearing Bhagavatam, Srivas Thakur was crying. And the students said, "Oh, who is this fellow disturbing us? Throw him out." And they threw him out, and Devananda Pandit did not forbid them. So he was inculcated in that offense, because he permitted it. He did not stop it. He did not do it, but he did not stop it. So he was inculcated in that offense, Devananda Pandit. And Mahaprabhu was very angry. Mahaprabhu saw him one day and he was reciting Bhagavatam. He said, "This wretch, he does not know anything about Bhagavatam. Not in this life, not in the past life, not in the future life will he ever know anything about Bhagavatam." And Mahaprabhu was going to tear up his book. And the devotees held him back. So Devananda Pandit, as a result of getting the mercy of Vakrashra Pandit, who was dancing, and Devananda Pandit would catch him and would stop the crowds. So he was purified as a result of serving Vakrashra Pandit. He came, he was delivered, he was purified, he was accepted. And also Gopal Chapal, along with other offenders, were also delivered. So this is Gopal Chapal incident for our consideration. Any question?
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, एक प्रश्न है। जैसे कि आपने अभी प्रवचन में एक प्यार दोहराई थी, श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य दया करह विचार, विचार करिते चित्ते पावह चमत्कार। तो किस तरह का चमत्कार प्राप्त होता है अगर भगवान चैतन्य की लीलाओं के ऊपर विचार करते हैं कि कितनी दया है उनकी? हरि बोल।
Well, we explain what are you once purified. Sigoda Modurya Lila Jakane Proveshila Ridoin Inamo Bello. You become purified. So that is the Jai Gauranga Nama Loy Tara Hoy Premu Doi. You take the name of Gauranga, you awaken the prem in your heart. So this is the astonishment. But also the philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Pabe Chamatkar, you'll be astonished at the philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There is no comparison to the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As he's explaining, the teachings of Mahaprabhu are further enunciated by the Goswamis, Rupa Goswami, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. There is no comparison to the exposition on the science of loving God in the different rasas. This is all the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ultimately, the Madhurya Ras Bhav. He's explaining the ultimate. Aradha Bhagavan Bharaje Shatana Dhamma Brindavana Ramana Kachiru Pashana Brajavaru Bhaganija Kalpita. The most extraordinary way of worshipping the Lord is that of the cowherd damsels of Vrindavan. So this is the teaching of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is astonishing. There is no comparison philosophically. And Mahaprabhu, he's freely giving this, the topmost. Raja Prem. This is astonishing. He's giving it here and there. On that auspicious note of the sound of the Vedic mantras, we will conclude. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Nithai Gauda Pramanande, Hari Hari Bol.